Hello, Kelvin. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Ash. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. Kelvin, before we proceed, do you have a favorite motivational quote, something that motivates you, inspires you, you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, it's very simple. Don't get bitter, get better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's so easy to when bad things happen, it's very easy to, boil up resentment or blame somebody else. But one of my favorite things my father taught me is when you point the finger at someone, there's three pointing right back at you. So
Mm,
don't get bitter, get better. What are the learnings? What can you start, stop, or continue from that situation so you can, increase the chances of success on the go forward?
indeed, indeed. And couldn't agree more on this one with you because, the moment you stop blaming others for anything happening in your life is the moment you have peace, is the moment you know what's going on. It's the moment you realize that you control your life 100%, you
Without
know,
a question.
without a question. Great stuff. So, Calvin, imagine this. We are in a room full of ambitious founders. No one knows who Calvin is. No one knows what he does. You have the mic. You have the stage. What would you tell them for the first couple of minutes so that these 100 founders stick with us for the rest of the hour?
Yeah, great question, Ash. It's easy and tempting to get into the X and O's. How can I raise capital more efficiently? How can I sell better? It's my little quick shout out, my second book that just became a Amazon bestseller yesterday. But we could talk about sales, we could talk about fundraising, we could talk about product, voice of the customer. But what I would really anchor on is there's an important step before that. And that step is on a scale of 0 to 10, how passionate are you about solving the problem you have set out to set? And if it's lower than a 9.5, the X's and O's aren't going to matter that much. There really needs
Mm,
to be a burning desire to push through the battle testing moments you're going to get being an entrepreneur that really doesn't, when I went to business school, grad and undergrad. We never really got like real concrete examples of may not be able to hit payroll next month, or you're at the 1 yard line and diligence, and you have a signed term sheet, and the funder pulls out at the last minute, and you're relying on those funds to, you know, speed up your product development or hire more staff. And now you got to recreate the wheel and you don't know how you're going to survive. Those things aren't really talked about that much. And what's gotten me through this journey is, one, having a real passion, and desire to solve the problem we've set out to solve. That's what's helped me persevere through. And then the second I would say is, Simon Sinek has a quote about where courage comes from. Is it internal or external? And Simon
mm,
Sinek actually believes it's external. If it wasn't for my parents believing in me, if it wasn't for Wade Rosen telling me at the age of 30, like, hey, you can find another corporate job. This is a opportunity. While you don't have a family, you need to, invest in yourself and invest in entrepreneurship. You're a CPA, you're very talented. Your time is now. So having that courage helps when you have a really good support system. So I would say a driving passion to solve the problem, and then making sure you have a really solid support system before going into that entrepreneurial venture.
indeed, indeed. And it looks very fancy, Ferrari car, yachts, and private jets when you think about being a founder, being an entrepreneur. But the reality is different. The reality is it's not 40 hours of work, it's 80 hours of work a week. It's not going out with your friends on the weekend. It's being alone for weeks, months, and years, trapped in your warehouse, trapped in your lab, trapped in your study to achieve, to produce the value which you could actually sell to somebody. And then, even after that, there's consistent crunching around d- producing the content and reaching out to your customers to actually make sure that people know about your startup. So it's not all fancy Lamborghini, Ferrari, visuals which we see on the social media nowadays. It's different. So Calvin, thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us more about Brevity Pitch. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Yeah, great question. So Brevity is an AI-powered role play software where
Mm,
we really help improve conversation skills for a wide variety of functions and roles that impact the most meaningful business metrics. Our primary target customer are large, medium-sized sales teams that are looking to cut the ramp time for new hires, increase more pipeline via cold calling, and close more deals at the end of the day. And what we've created is a way for people to simulate a real high stakes conversation and presentation that's hyper realistic and relevant, regardless of the industry or the personas you sell to. We have
mm,
companies like SAP and even a BMC software that use it to practice objection handling. Um, their presentations, getting those next steps calendared. We have companies that are like, Carfax that are, going to multiple dealers and, making sure they're practicing their pitch. And then the
mm,
best part about it is it's more objective than what was available before. Before Brevity and others like it, you would have to rely on your teammates or your colleagues to role play with you to prepare for a high stakes conversation and presentation. Now with
mm,
Brevity, you can practice in a psychologically safe space. I use it myself to, you know, I have certain things I need to get approved by my board. I practice my boardroom pitches on
mm.
Brevity. Some people use it to, from the HR and recruiting perspective, to vet candidates. A lot of people say that they've made President's Club, but now you can use Brevity to see how someone can simulate a high pressure situation and how they would prevent and overcome, certain objections and traps, preventing them to getting to that next step in the sales process.
That is quite interesting. And let me share something with you then. Few years back, I was working on a big program where we had to hire around 12 engineers, and I was responsible to hire some engineers who had particular technology stack understanding for that project, right? Um, but I had no understanding of that technology because I'm a program manager. I look after the programs. I get funds from the stakeholders, and then I have to distribute it among my project managers. Because it was a small team, I had to do the recruiting. And what I did was I literally put um, recursively playing video on the left on the Zoom and myself on the right. And then I started asking the questions and trying to answer it so that I can understand how things will work out when I ask these so much technical questions. And while I was doing that, I recorded it. And out of the blue, one day, my computer ran out of the storage. So say, okay, let me put that on YouTube. I put that on YouTube, and it's like most liked video I have ever posted. It doesn't belong to my niche. It has nothing to do with podcast. It is just a talk between an sort of like an AI, but it wasn't AI that time. There was no AI that time, so it was just a recursive video, and then I am talking to that person, mimicking that I am in the interview and answering, trying to answer and question at the same time. And I can see by that experience that how powerful it is to mimic a meeting. And this is something, like you could actually integrate into your system for hiring managers, because that is a very beneficial thing to do for hiring manager.
Without a question, we have a lot of companies leveraging this to
Mm,
interview business development reps, whether they're practicing a cold call or account executives practicing a discovery call to see if they do a good job of digging for pain. So
mm.
it's an unbelievable piece of technology. Super proud to be leading the team here at Brevity. Lots more to come, but yeah.
Awesome. Great stuff. So let's talk about where the story actually began. Where did the idea for Brevity Pitch came from? What were you doing before that? And what triggered you to pursue this?
Great question. So I was before Brevity, super quick background. I was a CPA at Ernst and Young. I did management consulting for a top 20 firm in New York. And then I took a risk and became the fifth employee of a tech company in Denver, Colorado. At that point, I knew I wanted to be a tech CEO. And then after that opportunity, I eventually started my own freelance consulting, helping entrepreneurs reach that next major milestone because I was kind of a jack of all trades from being a CPA, director of ops finance, sales, marketing, etc. I found myself, Ash, helping out the most with the pitch. And during that time period of when I was doing consulting work, I stumbled upon a book called The 3 Minute Rule, Saying
Hmm.
Less to Get More by Brant Pivotage. I still can't pronounce his last name. But but he actually is he's a one of the most famous Hollywood pitchmen. He pitched the shows Biggest Loser, Amazing Race, Bar Rescue, to name a few. So he's really good at pitching, and he wrote a book called The 3 Minute Rule. So I
Mm.
saw where AI was going back then, way before this AI buzz. So what was really the catalyst, I saw common problems and I found myself being repetitive with those problems with my entrepreneurs that I was servicing on crafting and delivering a persuasive pitch presentation. So that was really the inflection point. I built like a mini MVP with a developer based on the core principles of the 3 minute rule. And then what I wanted, the Brevity's first product was a mix of, like kind of Grammarly and TurboTax, helping entrepreneurs step by step create a craft and deliver a persuasive pitch and presentation. Now, we ended up pivoting the company and gladly, because as you can see, ChatGTP, you can do that now, right? But yeah, our original roots were around helping entrepreneurs craft and deliver a persuasive pitch presentation, and then eventually we pivot into our core product, which is a AI role play software where you can simulate any human conversation.
That's very interesting because, there's a saying, I don't know exactly what the wordings are. It's something related to eat your own dog's food. It's American. I've heard it many times in different shows. And I think that applies here in this case, right? Because you experience the challenge, you experience the pain, you experience the the traumatic situations the founders, the people have to go through while they're preparing for this kind of meetings and eventually go through it. So this proves that you're trying to solve a problem which not just yourself but also people in the same kind of persona characteristic face, right? Um, when you had this epiphany, did you looked into the market? Were there other products? What was going on that time? And what did you see from your research that encouraged you to move ahead with the idea?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Ash. I did a much better job on the pivot via market validation and research than our initial product. Our initial first product we brought to market was helpful, but not in a recurring basis. So we did not do enough market validation and research. I'm one of those shoot by the hip CEOs. I saw something. I wanted to, be an entrepreneur. And what I did with the original, the two things can be true at the same time. Like when you have an insane passion and you're open minded for other possibilities in which you originally set out for, cool. But at the same time, there was a lack of pragmatism when I first launched Brevity, more around like what I believe versus it's one thing for your customers to like what you have, but it's different to like and pay for it on a recurring basis. So
Hmm.
people liked it, but it wasn't good enough to pay for on a recurring basis. Now, the pivot we've made, you're talking about large dollars are spent on sales training and development across SMB and large enterprises. If you can help, if historically the new hire ramp up time for an account executive at a Fortune 500 company is 9 months, and your software can even shrink that down with good accuracy to 7 months, that's a massive dollar unlock. And when you have hard ROI stories, it makes it one, you have better price integrity. So there's not a race to the bottom because now you're being priced on value and not cost.
Mm,
Right. And then it allows you to secure budgets when they didn't have any because you have a large library of hard ROI stories across new hire ramp up, pipeline generation, and closing more deals.
mm. And what's better than paying for something which is getting you better return on investment, right? Every single business want to do it.
Yep.
So that's like the best. I mean, people pay for only four things. One, if you're bringing them money, then they will give you money. Two, if you save their time, right? And three, if you reduce their risk. And last but not least, status. These are the only four psychological reason people will pay for you. Otherwise, there's no way they're gonna give.
Yep.
They will gonna show you their
And if they
hard-earned
pay
money.
for it, they're not going to remain like the other thing is like the churn risk.
Mm,
With AI right now, there's a lot of shiny new toys in the market, but that doesn't mean some of the times I have the greatest now because I've learned when someone wants to buy your product too quickly and you haven't gotten into the weeds of why and the cost of them not buying your product, but they want to buy it, you're really setting up your team for a major risk of them not renewing.
mm,
So one of the
indeed.
biggest things that we deploy in our sales process is a business justification document that precedes a contract or a proposal. A lot of people go from technical evaluation, mini proof of concept, over to a proposal contract review, and they're missing a really important step, and that's what's that business justification? What are the problems we're solving? What are
Mm,
the existing options that were explored? What do you get in return for this investment? Why do you need to start now? And what are the intangible benefits? What's
yes.
that ROI payback period? Because a lot of the time, if you're selling complex B2B software, you need a push for the opportunity to meet with that economic buyer. But sometimes they're so busy dealing with their board or whoever that you may not have that opportunity. So you need to make sure you have a good, well-drafted one-pager with their letterhead, with the stakeholders that you're talking to, and it shows in their language that they can put in front of their boss
Mm.
that allows them to, possibly, make it an easier yes.
Yeah, yeah, and basically help them make a decision. You know, that's the big. You've been a consultant. That's like the superpower of
Yep.
you know making people. It's easier for stakeholders to make decisions. And thanks for sharing that because recently MIT released a new study they've done, and they found out that 95% of the enterprise AI pilots are failing. Their survey found like 78% of the companies claim AI is strategic, yet can't deliver measurable ROI. So it doesn't feel like if you're starting something with AI, it's going to work because it takes at least 12 months to prove its own value for B2B businesses to understand, yes, there is a return on investment, right?
Ash, I would
So,
love that MIT study. That's really interesting to hear. So 95% of AI initiatives have been failing, according to a study from MIT.
Yeah, yeah, enterprise AI pilots. I'm gonna put that on my LinkedIn so you will be able to read that whole story.
That's awesome. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not awesome, but it's always good to just be informed with the right
yeah.
data.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Great. So, Calvin, talk to us more about the Brevity Pitch business itself, because it's a founders podcast, right? We want to focus on the businesses. Give us a sense of the size of the business. Where are you in terms? I mean, you don't have to share the numbers in terms of revenue, but just percentage wise and number of customers, size of team, etc.
Yeah, so we roughly have over 20 full-time equivalents. So some contractors that are full-time, but over 20,
Mm-hmm.
um, over a million plus in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we service large notable companies and brands like Honeywell, SAP, Carfax, Comfort Systems USA, let's say
Mm-hmm.
our Commvault. So we have a lot of really great customers. Um, some of the primary use cases is new hire ramp up. People are working on their cold calls in Brevity, and then one of the biggest use cases, people use Brevity for conversation drills, which comes with this new and latest and greatest book, which we call traps. So think
Mm.
about the commodity trap, or what makes you different than X direct competitor. So people are getting a lot of value by practicing these micro moments. One of the other things that's been big with the company is we did a market study recently on what are the top what are the most frequently used applications for frontline sellers? And the top three are text message, email, and phone applications. So we're one of the only AI role play vendors um, that has launched what we call cell phone based role plays. So you can experience the entire Brevity interface just
Mhm.
by having a cell
A
phone
phone
number.
call. Ah, that's interesting. That's very
Yep, so you
interesting.
can create and execute role plays right on the fly,
Mm.
which is really, really super cool. So yeah, over a million in revenue, employ about 20 full-time equivalents. Major markets we serve are complex B2B software companies, life insurance slash financial services is a big sector of ours, and I would say field sales slash manufacturing.
That's great. That's great. And this is one of the biggest challenge founders face in their life. Like they start working on the product and they know that the product solves a real life problem, but they don't focus on selling it, making customers, right? How did you manage to get these big B2B customers? Okay, let me rephrase the question. How did you got your first customer?
Great question. The first suite of customers definitely came from my network, right? We have a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of venture capital. We have 8 institutional investors at Brevity. So a good amount of our customers came from my network, networking in the Twin Cities where I live, which is Minneapolis,
Mm-hmm.
for our first product, which was the AI powered pitch software. So I was able to get customers that were accelerators, local in town, that were willing to, become paid pilots. Once we've pivoted to AI powered role play software, I was on the Pitch podcast, which is a entrepreneur podcast, the audio version of Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I was pitching our pitch software on the Pitch podcast for
Podcast.
funding. And,
Mm.
and, and we did not get funding, but they did a recap episode of Where Are You Now? And I talked about our pivot.
Mm.
And a famous sales influencer heard that recap episode about this AI powered role play software, reached out. I saw his install base, and I ended up, securing a pretty notable strategic partnership where he has a large install base of CROs, VPs of sales. So that was a really huge, it continues to be a really huge uplift of how people become aware of our technology. But you can get a lot of leads. That doesn't mean you're going to close. So I
Mm,
had to spend a lot of time in the lab learning how to, what I call, qualify hard to close easy. So there was
mm.
a lot of closed losses, and 2024, that really, you know, I took those lessons learned and really combined that into the book.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And what is the strategy you're using currently to gain more and more B2B customer sign up? I know B2B cycles are pretty long. I run a B2B business myself. Sometimes informing and you know uh, prepping the customers or making them aware of the pain point takes quite a long time. Then they get into your funnel. Then you have to at least touch point with them at least six different places: social media, email, one to one, and all these kind of places. And then after they are warmed up, you jump on a call with them, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you will sign up with them, because B2B customers has quite a lot of complexities. They can't just make a decision on the call. They have to raise purchase orders. You have to draft contracts. You have to get signs from different stakeholders. And some stakeholders are on holiday for 20 days in Jakarta with their kids. So how do you manage that? What's the current strategy you use for signing up more B2B customers?
So from an upfront awareness, because we have an entire process. That's a very, very loaded question. But I would say in current state, we've generated a lot of pipeline through partnerships that have
Mm,
large install bases. So we have one of the top three management consulting firms in the globe who did a market study on who has the best AI role play software.
mm,
At that time, we secured that business, so we get a good amount of leads from that channel. We
got it.
also have been hyper focused on one of our early adopter customers. The chairman of that company, that life insurance agency, belonged to a large suite of a parent company that has hundreds of life insurance agencies. So we
Mm,
made sure we went above and beyond those early adopter customers, and then that led to massive expansion and credibility within life insurance alone. So
mm,
leaning on that individual, then that individual, ended up also becoming an investor in the company. So now there's an extra incentive for that individual to make connections within the greater life insurance space.
mm,
So you got the influencer from the podcast. You have, strategic partnerships with a major consulting firm. And then we leverage, now we also, because we have over 60 plus customers, actually probably more at this point, but we know the hard ROI stories, and we know who the top three sectors are. So now
mm,
we're able to find others like them, and we use a conversation methodology, and we use a software called Valley, which allows you to curate messages on LinkedIn. It learns about your personas, it learns about your conversation methodology, and it streamlines the process to do effective outbound via LinkedIn.
mm.
So that's another area where, and then we also invest in certain conferences within certain sectors that are looking to improve learning and development for their teams. So we've also invested in certain, trade shows and conferences where a lot of where our ideal customer profiles are going to be. Another thing is, I hate to keep putting back, but the book and thought leadership and credibility, and making sure that you have a differentiated message. Um, a lot of our direct competitors believe that practice makes perfect. We believe that there's a missing adjective, and that's perfect practice makes perfect.
Mm,
Based on someone's available capacity and bandwidth to practice, we help people identify the highest and best use. within our
Yeah.
technology and also with our revenue performance coaches that we have on staff.
Interesting.
To
I
answer your
know. I mean,
question, Ash, again,
yes,
I got
yes, yeah, yeah, you did. I just started thinking like, what, what would, I mean, I know there is no secret or a trick to do the B2B sales, but how good it would be to have some kind of um, template or a framework or a boilerplate to follow through. But it seems to me like in B2B business you have to try many things, and whatever works for your unique use case, that is what you have to double down or 4x the effort on. Great. So thanks, Kelvin. I mean, we can talk about it for the days, but we are limited with the time, and we have another section on our show, which is the quickfire round. Before we go into that section, I wanted to ask you a personal question. Throughout your journey and experiences, there must have been valuable lessons learned. If you don't mind sharing, could you reflect on your experiences and tell us about one mistake or a setback that you encountered along the way that you now consider not a regret but a lesson learned? And additionally, what advice would you give our listeners based on this experience?
True, there's so many. Let's break this down. In the early phases,
Mm-hmm.
in the early like when I first started Brevity,
Yep.
I would say from a hiring perspective, slow down to move fast a little bit. Easier said than done. Have a
Mm,
hiring process. Have clarity in terms of have documented clarity in terms of your personal core values. Recently, I did a exercise where I thought back in my career
mm,
of all the people I worked with, and I asked myself the question, in a corporate sense, who are the individuals I would want to go to war with? And I jotted down those names from when I graduated to college to now. And
mm,
then I listed out the attributes of all those individuals. And then I leveraged AI to extract the common denominator attributes of those 5 individuals. And then I took those attributes and took Brevity's mission, and really what we stand for is we're helping people improve their conversation skills to improve their performance in a wide variety of sectors and
mm,
areas. So I then have an output of Brevity's core values, which are getting your reps. We want people that are resilient. We want people that are empathetic. We want people that are proactive, and we want people that are supportive. That's really the ethos and nucleus of this company. And it's easy to skip it because you're so enamored with solving the problem. But at the end of the day, you got to work with the right people that's going to
mm,
help you better excel solving those problems. You cannot do it alone. But if you're not working from the same value system and you don't have clarity of your own value system, you need to start that process a lot earlier. So that's one of the biggest things that lessons learned that I have. And now at the company, we also reinforce those values. The first thing we start our all hands meeting every Monday, we have rep shout outs where someone has to give one of the letters of the acronym and a concrete story of how someone at the company applied resilience or empathy or proactivity or support.
mm.
That's something I wish I would have done earlier.
That's a very good point because I think the founders listening to this episode will learn that if you have these SOPs, these protocols, these blue frames templates ready for bringing new team members on the team and understanding what characteristics you would like in their personality, not just helps you building a stronger team from the inception, but also make sure that your team sticks together for a longer time because they have the same value inculcated inside their character, right? So that's a very good point, golden nugget. Thanks for sharing that, Kelvin. Okay,
Absolutely.
great. So let's move into our lightning round. I've got 6 quick fire questions for you. At any stage, if you feel that you don't want to answer any question, just give me a skip and then we move on to the next one. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. What are the top 3 strategies to generate leads in 2025.
Top 3 strategies to generate leads in 2025. Number 1, as close as possible, a strong hypothesis or clarity in your ICP, why they buy and the cost of them not buying.
Hmm.
That would be number 1. Number 2, finding partnerships that have a large install base has been a super amazing strategy for us. And then number 3, the biggest is making sure your product has strategic outcomes and benefits. So that's a part that's easy to skip, but it's like, I would say slow down and move fast. Those first 5 to 10 customers, you need to make their experience so remarkable that they become some of the biggest sellers for you
Of your
through word
product.
of mouth.
Hmm.
That's my rapid fire top 3.
No, that definitely, definitely. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
What book really changed the game for me? I'm a big fan of 3-minute rule,
Hmm.
saying less to get more.
Yeah, yeah. What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Resilience.
Resilience, grit. Yeah, makes sense. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Working out in the gym 5 days a week.
Mm,
2
nothing beats
boxings,
that.
2 weight
Yeah,
2 boxings, 2 weightlifting, cycling, and then a bunch of sauna cold plunge on the weekend.
yeah, yeah, definitely. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
Yeah, this is so I'm a big fan of like sports podcasts like Stephen A. Smith, Jeff
Mm,
Teague, sometimes Gilbert Arenas. Um, I think it would be cool if they had like an AI based barbershop, right? Where sometimes I like if we're talking about the GOAT debate between Michael Jordan or LeBron James, sometimes I want to insert my opinion. So it'd be cool if they had an ability during a podcast for me to chime in and have a dialogue. And it's already indexed off of all of their available, it's scraped all their available analysis. And you can start to have a debate about LeBron James versus Jordan as the GOAT. And almost get scored on it. I think that would be
mm-hmm,
kinda cool.
mm. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? If you're a fan of the show, you would like to interact with the show, right?
But I got
Great.
enough going on with Brevity, but if someone
Yeah.
takes that, cool, I would sign up.
Yeah, that's the one of the reason I asked this question in the show because I want to give value to our listeners so that they get these ideas from the proven founders like yourself, you know. What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Really good at Connect Four, really good ice skater.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I like that. I've never, I couldn't skate even with the wheels. So ice skating is way beyond my limits. Great. Kelvin, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking last few years of building this business and some of the ups and downs. If people want to get in touch, people want to check out, what's the best way to do it?
BrevityPitch.com. And also, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Kelvin Johnson Jr. Do not connect
Mm-hmm.
with my dad, Kelvin Johnson Jr., CPA.
Great stuff. Kelvin, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing through Brevity Pitch. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Thank you, Ash.